Manifesting our new society. With the ambassador of the Red Dragon family, Cobra, Alfred Lambremont Webra and Captain Max Steel. July 29, 2016. Louisa, hello everyone, welcome to the Goldfish Report. I am Louisa, your CO host. We have a very special Goldfish Report for you today. This is part 3 of our Exopolitics Roundtable discussion, and the focus of today is on creating our new society. And in the process of discussing this, we will be manifesting this, and I wanted to put the focus on the manifesting portion of this, because as we discuss, as we speak, our spoken words will be manifesting what we talk about today. And I am very excited to welcome our very special guests to help us do this. We have with us Cobra. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome back to the Goldfish Report. Cobra, thank you very much for the invitation. I am looking forward to this exciting discussion. Louisa, we have Alfred Lambremont Webra. Thanks for joining us today, Alfred. Alfred, thank you very much. I am happy to be here. Louisa, we also have Captain Max Steel and his partner Nicole Steele, who are also on Wolf Spirit Radio, joining us today. Thank you for joining us, Max and Nicole. Max, thank you. It is a pleasure to be here with these very important distinguished guests who are very important to humanity, and I am glad and honored to be with all of you here. Louisa, and of course we would like to welcome our gracious host, the ambassador of the Red Dragon family. Welcome, Ambassador. Ambassador, thank you very much. Welcome to all the guests. Louisa, just for the record, we did invite Simon Parks, who was supposed to join us here today but maybe have had internet connections problems. We have a very special Goldfish Report. As I mentioned, this is our Exopolitics Roundtable. The reason we are doing these roundtables is so that we can have people who are concerned about humanity and releasing information to people that is not reported in the mainstream media and that is of critical importance to humanity about what's going on with our planet. The most important thing that we want to talk about is creating our new future. What I would like to do is play a short video clip to help set the tone here, and so that all of us can start from the same place in our heart. To start the manifesting and the discussion from a place of compassion and love to intention and manifestation. I would like to start with this YouTube video titled A Message to Humanity. This is the famous Charles Chaplin speech from his movie The Great Dictator, and I will enclose the link in this transcript so that our viewers can listen along and manifest this with us on this digital voice copy of this transcript. I would like our viewers to feel free to print out this transcript and listen to the recording together, to feel this in real time since this is not a live recording. The Great Dictator's speech. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible, Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there is room for everyone. And the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical. Our cleverness, hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery we need humanity. More than cleverness we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think and what to feel. Who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, "The kingdom of God is within man." Not one man nor a group of men, but in all men. In you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy let us use that power, let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power. But they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. Louisa, wow, was very moving. This is a great place to begin. A way to remind us of where we as humanity have been, and so that we can collectively, in our hearts, build our new society with compassion and love in our hearts for one another. I hope that this video has touched your hearts, each of you here today, just a little bit, because we want better for humanity, and this is why we are here today, so we can manifest this. You kind of have to experience it with the music to feel it in your heart. And having said this, I would like to choose and discuss some of the many good quotes and poignant images from this video. The kingdom of God is within man. Let's just start with Cobra. The kingdom of God is within. This is not a new statement, but I think we have to look at this in a completely different way, and what you talk about with doing your meditations, and going within, and opening up our chakras. Can you start this conversation, Cobra, by responding to that statement? Cobra, my perspective is that if you go inside, you will find all the answers, you will find all the guidance, and you will manifest, or shall we say we will all together manifest our new society, first by going within, reaching out to the vision, and manifesting that vision on the physical. So, we need to go in first, and then we need to reach out to the world and change it from within. Louisa, Cobra, are we talking about the metagene? There are many researchers who have talked about the fact that humans have something called a metagene. Is this how we manifest through this metagene, Cobra? Is this something unique? What is so unique about human beings? Cobra, every race in the universe can do this. Humanity is in a unique position because it has been the most on this planet with the most contrast, the most complex life forms, and is a focal point for the cosmic transformations. So, it's actually happening everywhere, it's a universal process. Louisa, has this ability been hijacked from humanity for nefarious purposes by artificial intelligence or archons? Cobra, I would say that there are opposing forces that try to hijack the process, and try to hijack the free will, but the initial decision of everybody on this planet to join this reality was free will choice. We signed the contract. We need to cancel that contract and use our free will again. Louisa, and how do we cancel that contract? Cobra, simply by using free will to say no to this. We don't want this anymore, we want a different world, we want a different reality. It's very simple. And that's why people are awakening, that's why we have all the blogs and why we have all the activities and reactions that is taking place right now throughout the world to say no to this. We don't need to agree to this, we can change this. Louisa, so we need empower ourselves? Cobra, we can. If we know what we want, if we know our vision, and if we are aware that we can actually manifest it. It's not something that cannot be done. It takes time, it takes perseverance, but it can be done. And it will be done. Louisa, thank you Cobra. There is a researcher by the name of Mary Rodwell who we recently interviewed on the Goldfish Report, has a book coming out called The New Human, and it's research based, and what I refer to that her work is systematically studied. And the idea of the new human is taken from her research with the young children of today are incarnating with incredible abilities. They are coming in with recollection of languages that are not Earth languages. They are coming in with memories of engineering technology that we don't possess yet. They are coming in with the ability to talk to fairies, so interdimensional experiences. They apparently go on craft at night where they go for lessons of various kinds of skills such learning how to fly, etc. What is happening here Cobra? Is our DNA being upgraded? Is this going to help us manifest? Cobra, it's not just the DNA, it's a whole inner transformation, not just the physical body. It's our emotions, our mind, our perceptions, our personality, our connection with our source, with our higher self. All this is being transformed. It is part of a cosmic process. Louisa, in our last Exopolitics Roundtable, Cobra, you had said that we are going to be going into the fourth and fifth dimension, and what I thought was really interesting that you had said was that we are trying to solve the current problems in a three-dimensional way of thinking, and that was really not useful for us. Now, I am going to bring in Captain Max Steele. Max also thinks this event is quite near. I don't know if you are talking about the same event that Cobra is talking about, but I think you are. Do you want to explain why you mean by the event and as a remote viewer? Max, yes, it's a great honor to meet all of you today. I had a vision on Sunday that was very clear and really shocked me. I am a galactic commander. I do have craft out there in space right now. I have several 120,000-mile wide craft bigger than Jupiter. I saw a vision of a big spacecraft, and in comparing mine with this big one looked like a black beam next to this one, and the sun looked like a dime compared to this one. I have confirmed this with other psychics including Nicole who is with us here and Jessica Morocco. It is coming this way, and these beings that are inside these crafts are nothing like I have ever seen before. They have a shell on themselves. They have big claws and their face is all black and is very scary to a regular human being, but I am not scared of anything like that. Not do I have fear or ego, but I am worried about what can happen when it arrives. It told me the Cabal were going to use this big giant craft to scare humanity on Earth. But that is not the reason they are here. The reason they are here is to remove all the Cabal, all the negative entities that are here on this planet. They told me this is Judgment Day, that this is the event that the humans have been waiting for. And they are coming here to remove the negative entities that are here, including humans that have caused problems, including the ones here in prison. They are all going to be removed, all of them. And then they are going to clear up the atmosphere, the contaminated water, and remove all chemicals from the planet completely like it never existed. I am hoping for this to really happen. Louisa, that is very interesting because it seems that there is technology that is capable of doing this and that there have been other people coming out claiming that ETs have been here and have always been here and that have in fact prevented nuclear war likely several times on this planet. Let me ask Alfred to jump in. We have a lot to overcome. In manifesting our new society, Alfred, how do you see the changes happening within society as not only someone working in media, but with your background in law and exopolitics, how are we going to manifest our new society? Whether the event happens like the way Max describes it or as Cobra describes it, there is going to be a transformation on the planet and on a social level. What do you see happening, Alfred? Alfred, well, there are a lot of questions embedded in your question. And first of all, there is not an either or between what Cobra said and between what Max said is a both and we can bring objective science-based data to sustain what both of them said, and I would like to do that right now. This comes directly from our empirical studies in exopolitics, and I'll start with Max first. If for example we just go back here to the year 2010 and the case of Stanley Fulham, who is a lifelong NORAD officer from Winnipeg, Manitoba, here in Canada, who is a colleague of mine. His job at NORAD was to dispatch the jet interceptors every time that there was a UFO encroachment into NORAD airspace. So, he was familiar with those protocols and was familiar with UFOs. And interdimensional UFOs. And after he retired, he was contacted by an interdimensional advanced, probably 7th density soul cluster, who said they wanted to put him in touch with the Regional Galactic Governance Council, the Alpha Centaurians, the Sirians, and others who are really the Regional Galactic Governance Council that was in charge of the Homo sapiens project, of which we are an example. They are the ones who are in charge of the husbandry of this planet at the universe level, not at the spirit dimensional level, which is a soul level that comes in and oversees it all. At that time they entered into intense continual communication with Stanley Fulham. All this is in his book. They told him they were going to appear over New York City on October 15, 2010, and they were going to decloak their fleet, and they chose New York because it was a center of communications, finance, and government worldwide, and that the population of New York, as we all know, was blasé, and that they wouldn't freak out. And if you go to your exopolitics.com article on this, you'll see people looking up at the corner 38th and Madison Avenue, and they are kind of blasé at the fleet uncloaking on that date. So, Stanley Fulham publishes a book in early 2010 that says, the fleet is going to uncloak over Manhattan on October 15, 2010, and all of us who were in exopolitics said, Stanley, have you gone out of your mind? Do you know what happens to people who predict exact dates? They get clobbered. Well, on October 15, 2010, the fleet decloaked over Manhattan. And of course, there was counterintelligence that said, oh, it's balloons, it's, whatever the counterintelligence was. Now, why October 15, 2010? Because the next day was the meeting of the UN Outer Space Council. Their offices flown over from their Vienna base, and their director, a woman, gave a speech. These are the protocols that we are going to put into place when Earth meets an extraterrestrial civilization. So that's why, that's the level of interaction that was going on as of 2010. Which was fairly advanced. And what they told Stanley at that time, was that their game plan, the Galactic Fleet, is to come in, and once the density is sufficiently open, to come in. The ideal portal is 2025, which is also the portal I think for the density to begin to appear, and 5th density for others, that they will land and they will give a speech at the UN and be non-traumatic. And then they will proceed, as Captain Max said, to clean up the environment. It's all very specifically set out in Stanley Fulham's book. I followed up with a whole series of interviews in the balance of 2010. He came forth and predicted that there will be sightings in London in December and in Moscow in December, which there were. And then the negative force, probably I would guess the NSA, CIA, MI5 came in and assassinated him with a fast-acting pancreatic cancer, so he was dead by the end of the year. I got the last interview with Stanley Fulham before he died of the cancer. So anybody who really wants to know documented evidence with photographs coordinated with the actual photographs, we have Randy Kitcher, who is master's degree level graduate student, brilliant, at the University of Manitoba, who was a colleague who lived close by Stanley Fulham. And he is probably a leading, if not the leading ufologist, in Canada, because he understands interdimensional entities as well as the nuts and bolts kind. We did multiple interviews with Stanley. Randy did independent interview on the New York UFOs, the London UFOs, on the Moscow UFOs. Not only that, but there were UFOs in Jerusalem over the dome of the mosque, where it was clear that they had to integrate and deconstruct the enmity between Islam and Christianity, and that was part of what he was talking about. And those UFOs, the Mossad came in and said that's just Mossad disinformation, but we showed it was impossible to be a Mossad operation, and that's just to document Captain Max. Now, I can go on right now to document exactly scientifically what Cobra was saying about moving into 4th and 5th density ascension. If we begin to look at 2012, the intervals from 2012 to 2025, in terms of the great year, in terms of the great year, or what we call in the Eastern tradition the yugas, which are 25,800 years long, the precession of the equinoxes, which we are going into now, which is the change between the Kali Yuga into the Sati Yuga, which we are going into right now, and it's in those portals, that this has been known in the West from the time of Plato forward, and in the East forever, that this is the time, as Cobra says, inward. Because ascension is inward, it's not outward, where you typically have the universe's 3rd and 4th density, the universe's washing machine for souls. You know how you have the cycles like once wash, rinse, spin. Well, 3rd density is like the wash cycle, the 4th density is like the rinse cycle, and then the 5th density is like the spin cycle. And so what Max said about the fleet coming in and dispersing the evil souls, yes, because service to self souls cannot ascend to 4th density, so they are dispersed off the 3rd density planets. Other washing machines out there that to complete their particular cycles and upward. If you look at the omniverse point of view, what we did was to set out a science-based model of the universe, the multiverse, and the omniverse, how they interact as a single integrated system, basically for soul creation and development. Louisa, wow, you are so far out there, Alfred, and as futurist this is what you do, to give us the bigger perspective. And in our space that we are in today, to focus on manifesting, what do we need to do to manifest what is coming in terms of our new society, work, family, food, agriculture. Let's talk about it so we can manifest it together. Let me go to the ambassador to talk about a new financial system. Obviously the financial system we have is not working. What do you think, ambassador, is the best way to move forward with a financial system? Do we even need money at all? RD ambassador, I believe that we need some form of exchange. For services and commodities and whatever it might be. Because it also has to do with our own independent development too. So it has to be balanced. Unfortunately, what has to be done is that the present system that we have today is built on sin. I don't know if many of you read the Bible or Quran. Interest is even a sin that God has created a war on. So I think we need a huge reform in the financial system, and we need that the world should be represented in this new financial system, and that nations should have their real voice heard. And today you see the IMF, which is basically America and Europe and the rest of the world, have to abide by their decisions. I don't think that represents the rest of the world that makes up the international community. We hear so often people talk about that United States and Britain claims that they are representing the international community, and every time they talk about the international community it's just Britain and the United States, and I think that this type of mindset has to be removed. I think it is important that nations like India, China, Russia, and many other nations with large populations, that their populations and their nations and their capacities are also being biggest owners of capital and biggest guarantees of loans that the United States and other nations has taken. We need to find some form of true reconciliation and a proper audit and clear way to move forward. And that is why I think that in the coming months when we see the remitting starting, I believe that we will see currencies moving up and down in certain places and that they should be stabilized for their true value. Now we are in a stage of a third world war already, it's already a war that is happening, and we also have a financial war as we are speaking, where people are manipulating the currencies as an act of war, almost. I think it is important that we all need to sit down and we need to shift the west to east already, because the east is where the majority of people live. And we should have a world that is represented by the people of its population, not represented by a few oligarchies that controls everything. As I said before, as you could see with the attempted coup in Turkey, this is exactly what I have been calling for since I started. People should take charge and disempower their criminal governments, but in this case it seems like it was just a covered operation so he could take ultimate power and have the right to execute all opposition. But we as nations need to come together, and people need to come together to fight this tyranny we see on the planet and not consent to all this type of nonsense. Now, there is an election going on in the United States that is basically an insult to humanity, where you have two others, one is pest, the other is cholera, and this is what you have to choose from. And whatever you choose you are going to go to hell. And when you have this type of situation presented in your face and people do not react and the people doesn't even do anything, it pushes the dark agenda people that they see they still have easy control over the ignorant masses, or whatever you want to call them, who is just going ahead to try to survive, do not think about their rights and doesn't execute and use their voices for the rights they have. I think that it is important that we as a populations and all populations around the world need to take responsibility, unify and fight this little elite group of people who has hijacked the system for such a long time, stalling the 555 implementation for such a long time, and pushing it forward into this new era of prosperity that we could face very easily with our own will. We have nations, we have people and governments that are extremely supportive for the world's population, and then we have a small group of people, what I would call the North Atlantic Terrorist Organization, or what we call NATO, which continuously want to keep the world on the edge of a nuclear war, and I think that we need to disempower this type of leadership. And we had the Brykes exit, which is like a Rothschild repeat from the Waterloo, one more time, and it was done again, straight in the people's faces. And everyone bought it. And I think that these entities are playing with us to see how far they can push us before we react, and if we don't react, I think that either we are going to be enslaved by these people or we will be enslaved by an artificial race coming. That is the question here. We as human beings have to come together and create the higher consciousness. I believe that some of the steps that have been taken these last weeks I hope will be done in such manner that will prepare a way for a better society for all of us. But, then, you have all the disinformation agents, people living in an amazing fantasy world that claims to be this and claims to be that, and they are supposed to do this and that and is backed by nothing. And then you have people claiming that they're representing the Dragon family or are the Dragon family and telling stories that come straight out of Walt Disney. I think it is important that we have to discern very carefully what you see both in the media and what you hear from people. Because the majority, about 98% of what you see and hear from people is unfortunately rubbish in my opinion. But if we are going to succeed, and I believe that humanity has so many times during our existence come together and defeated both evil and come together and made things better, and I think this is the time for a revolution actually. And I hope that we coming into a new dimension or a higher understanding, although I have not yet seen so much evidence for it. I hope really that it comes very fast, because to save the majority of the people on this planet, I think that we need to act now, and we should not sit on our chairs and think that someone will rapture us. I believe we need to rapture ourselves. This is my personal opinion. Louisa, thank you, Ambassador. One of the interesting things about this question of money is that you know that money really corrupts people. Unfortunately, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. Which comes first? Is the person spiritually bankrupt or corrupted first, or does the person start with good intentions and then the power associated with money corrupts them? Cobra, are there other planetary systems that exist without this monetary system? And how do they then deal with exchange, as the ambassador was saying? Is there an alternative, Cobra? Cobra, basically, the monetary system that we have on this planet has been imported from the Orion constellation star system. It is a debt slavery system which is actually used to control populations, and it is absolutely not necessary. When the controlling forces are removed, nobody will be able to suppress advanced technologies which will be able to create anything out of etheric substance. So we will have replicators. And when people have replicators, money as a mode of exchange will lose its value, because everybody will have a replicator and will be able to materialize at home whatever they will need. The real value of exchange is our own essence, our own presence, and in the more advanced civilization across the universe, this exchange happens energetically as an act of love. It is not something that needs to be measured. Because there is abundance of everything, and the monetary system on this planet was created from the perspective of lack, that there is not enough. And the only reason there is not enough is because somebody is suppressing the flow of abundance towards the planetary surface. That is why we have a quarantine. And when the quarantine status of the planet is removed, the flow of abundance will flow through the whole humanity. I am speaking about physical and also spiritual abundance here, and when the floodgates of abundance open, there will be no more need for money. Of course, this can't happen immediately after the event. There will be a certain transition period, but it will not be long. It will be just long enough for humanity to integrate the change and get used to the replicators after they process all the intel that will be released. So after the planet goes through the integration process, there is absolutely no need for money in any form or shape. Louisa, Cobra, you said these are molecular replicators. Is that what you mean when you say replicators? Cobra, these are not just molecular replicators, they actually materialize the blueprint for any physical object that manifests the blueprints into the physical plane. Louisa, because technology was definitely on topic we wanted to cover today as well, and since we are on this topic, we are going to stick with it. With teleportation, we want this technology, we want free energy. Before I go to you, Cobra, I am going to screen share for you all something that was in the news today, although to Cobra, this isn't news, and for all the people who follow Cobra know and are already aware of what tachyons are, but here we have a very well-known and respected theoretical physicist, Michio Kaku, talking about discovering the force that governs everything. He refers to this as tachyons are theoretical particles capable to unstick the universal matter or vacuum space between matter particles, leaving everything free from the influence of the surrounding universe. By discovering this, Michio Kaku concludes that we live in a matrix. Cobra, can you comment on this and help us understand this better? Cobra, yes, when I read this article it is exactly what I was speaking for years about tachyon energy. It is all very familiar for me, and it is a good confirmation that this came from somebody who is actually one of the fathers of the string theory. So, I will say it is interesting aspect of soft disclosure that mainstream science is slowly beginning to accept certain things that were not acceptable before, because the position on the orthodox physics doctrine was that there are no tachyons. They are impossible because of the special theory of relativity, and nothing goes faster than light, and this was the mantra of orthodox physics. And now again we are getting a little bit close to the real truth, and of course anybody who has any kind of spiritual connection knows that the speed of light is not the maximum speed in the universe. Louisa: yes, and of course, and for those who are telepathic would know this already. Just through telepathy we know it is not the case. Cobra: yes, exactly. Louisa: certainly the UFO crafts travel at superluminal speeds. I lay out on my deck at night and I look up at the stars and I see so many things just flying by very quickly, and although I am in a major metropolitan area where there are airports not far away, these are not airplanes. I know they are not airplanes as they really seem as high as the stars with steady light. There is a group of brothers by the name of the Cousin Brothers who have the Third Phase of Moon website and YouTube channel, and they had a fellow on recently who summoned UFOs to appear, and sure enough the Cousin Brothers videotaped this man using his technique and the UFO appeared. He claims we can all do this. We are talking about things that our science is not revealing to us. For the people who are awake and aware, this is a really long wait. But in the space that we are in right now, we want to create and think and manifest a better world. Let me go to Cobra to see if he has a comment about his before I go to Max, because Max was able to telepathically communicate with the craft when he worked at Area 51. Cobra: are we going to have teleportation as well? Cobra: yes, of course. Teleportation and materialization are two aspects of the same process. I would say it's a shaping of the universal space-time field, and all the advanced races in the universe know how to do it. And when we have the first contact and when we have this connection with our star brothers and sisters, it will be everyday reality. This is our future. Louisa: but you are saying that the technology exists already. But isn't this what CERN in part does? Do I understand this correctly? Is it a matter of the units of information are broken down and they are transported in a particular order so that it can be reassembled on the receiving side? I know this is a very novice way to describe this and we are trying to keep it simple for our viewers. Cobra: is that how it works? Is that what CERN is doing? Cobra: no, CERN is a particle accelerator. It is not a teleportation machine. It just tries to bring the particles as close as possible to the speed of light with very high energies to detect theoretical particles which were predicted by classical physics. This is not a teleportation machine. Teleportation is a process when you actually push matter through a hyperdimensional wormhole and this matter exits normal space-time continuum, gets teleported and enters a space-time continuum somewhere else, through another portal, and this information then travels through a wormhole, I would say in a different dimension, in a different reality, and information arrives to its final destination intact. It's basically a very simple process and everybody will be able to experience this after the event. Louisa: you say it's so simple and yet we have just been so deprived, and I feel like we should have had this a long time ago. Do you feel humanity is ready, or did you feel there was any real reason to cause such a long delay? Cobra: humanity was always ready. The problem was that humanity was manipulated. Access to information was restricted, but when humanity have all the basic intel after they go through this integration process, they will be very open and accepting, and I would say more than 90% of people will have absolutely no problem with accepting new and advanced technologies which will expand their horizon. Louisa: thank you, Cobra. Max: this whole concept of being telepathic, and you were explaining in one of our goldfish reports about being able to communicate with these retrieved beam ships, and you were showing us some pictures earlier of some symbols that you had drawn, and you were able to communicate with these beam ships when you were at Area 51. And just to recap, Max was a transporter for the recovered crashed beam ships for the United States government, and as he was transporting these beam ships he found he was able to telepathically communicate with them. So Max, can anybody do this? Max: I only know of myself. I am sure there are other people out there that can actually do that. Once you make contact for the first time like I did, when the commander of Area 51 took me to S4 to look at a craft that was in Bay 7, he asked to see me and asked if I could open it up. I said I don't know if I can, I am not really sure, but then the craft started to talk to me telepathically and it told me what to do. I put my left hand on the bottom of the craft, I felt this electricity tingling in my hand, and the door opened up. I told the commander I needed to go inside and he said no. I told him I need to go inside now or the door is going to close forever. Then he allowed me to enter into the craft and as soon as I entered the craft I put my hands on the control panel right in front of me. It told me to do that. So, I put my hands on that panel. It was like a silver-like metal and I can't distinguish what kind of metal it was because our technology from where I come is very different. It fed this electricity into my fingers over my palm in my hand and it told me a big flash of information was going into my mind, like a download, and I was able to see how the craft was made, where it has traveled, where it had been made, the age of the craft, and it told me many things. So after I made that contact with that craft, in other interviews I said it was a Procyon ship. I couldn't reveal the real identity at the time but I later did on one of your goldfish reports which I was glad to do and it was really a reptilian craft that I went into. It recognized who I was for the reason that I come from the future, not your future. I want to make that clear. I am from the future of my star system which is in the 17th universe and the 21st dimension, that's where my people are from. Because when I first came to Earth, I came in 1958 and this body was already 5 years old. It was born in 1953, but I was able to walk into this body. I am a galactic commander, and king of my planetary system. I will tell you about these 3 craft that I had taken pictures of, that actually communicated with me telepathically. The craft on the bottom of the 3 was the one that was communicating with me and it knew me and it knows my people. Here is another picture of a craft that I took in Georgia and it was about 200 feet above me. I was communicating with all these crafts telepathically. They know that my people are very peaceful and non-violent. We don't start wars, we don't fight wars. We are mostly about peace and love and harmony. I do have weapons on my craft, very advanced and incredible weapons. We don't kill people, we send a signal to whatever craft it is, doesn't matter what size it is. We transport it to a dimension that we created to bring these entities in and show them what kind of life they can live there without violence. But like Cobra said a little while ago, we do have replicators. We send these replicators to their crafts so they can only replicate what they need for food, water to drink, and whatever they cannot use it to get out of there, it just doesn't work. I have a picture that was given to me from a friend of mine that worked for NASA and it is a real picture of a Lenin. It is a picture of 9 motherships. It was taken with NASA Hubble telescopes and other scopes and actually this picture was taken from Mars. We have a scope out there that the United States put up there in the orbit of Mars. It was sent to us from Mars. NASA told the public it was either a comet or asteroid, but how could it all of a sudden put on the brakes and stop? That's what they said it did, but that doesn't work that way. Louisa, Cobra, you talked about the thinning of the veil in the recent conference that you had and you showed a picture of the sky and it was a pinkish sky. Are we going to gain more abilities once this veil comes down completely? Cobra, yes, of course, because the veil technology is blocking our higher abilities. And when the veil is removed, all those abilities will become quite natural for especially for those of us who came to this planet from other star systems. We will just reawaken to our own inner power. We will get it back. Louisa, some of us have this to a certain degree. A lot of people say I knew someone was going to call before they called, or I just knew something, and you don't know how you knew it, but you just knew it. Alfred, you were talking about your book before and I know you have had your own interesting experiences. But Alfred, we can develop this, and as Cobra said, this veil needs to come down. What can you tell us about that, Alfred? As Cobra reported, does that mean this veil is thinning or that there are holes in it, or is there a meshing occurring and disintegrating? What does that mean? Alfred, yes, that is a very interesting question. We are all monitoring it to see. I call a particular piece of it the chronography because it used a particular technology which is secret time travel technology. Secret teleportation and time travel technology, since we live in a time-space hologram, time just being one of the dimensions of height, width, depth, and time-space, then you can dial up any position in our time-space hologram and teleport there, essentially. I can very quickly describe for the audience what we have been able to document using the law of evidence, which is good enough for courts, and that is eyewitness documentary evidence, what we have on the record. I have Exhibit A here, my book Exopolitics, that supposedly founded the science of exopolitics. It was written in Vancouver here in 1999, it was published online as a free ebook to change the paradigm. It was published as a soft cover in 2005, and it was promptly time-traveled by secret CIA time travel technology back to the year we know, at least 1966. Because I had a meeting with Governor Winthrop Rockefeller, a private meeting with only 2 other people there at Yale Law School in 1966, because he had this, he gang-stalked me. And then the chrononaut Andrew D. Bejago witnessed this as part of Project Pegasus in 1971 in the company of 2 other people, including his father, who was part of the CIA time travel project, and in 1971 I was General Counsel of the Department of Environmental Protection Administration in New York City. I was invited to a meeting at what later proved to be around 50 Department of Defense and CIA time travel officers who had been briefed on my book. They wanted to see what I looked like in 1971 because they knew that on July 29, 2016, I would be a whistleblower saying, "They control time and they are a chronography, and I'm blowing the whistle along with a whole army of whistleblowers, and this is how to get to the future successfully." So now, that's a real piece of evidence. That's Exhibit A. Louisa, but so is something we talked about recently, sorry to interrupt, is that they pre-selected all the US presidents in the same process, right? Alfred, well, now you have Exhibit B. And people can go online and read an article of mine that was published in 2011 in Veritas magazine in Australia, and it's all documented. We have the whole history of secret time travel there. We have eyewitness testimony who were at the meetings when George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush were briefed in 1971 on being future president, that they were going to be president at Las Haciendas restaurant in Socorro, New Mexico. George W. was 18 years old. He ran around the room saying, "My daddy and I are going to be president, my daddy and I are going to be president." I mean, you know, that's what W did when they told him. Louisa, well, you went to school with him so you should know, right? Alfred, well, W was 4 years behind me at Yale when I was in law school, and Dick Cheney, who was vice president, was a sophomore when I was a freshman and he flunked out. So I had those 2 guys on my cosmic shoulders all this time. You don't know. Even the Stonewall took place around the corner from my Greenwich Village apartment the night that I threw a huge party because I passed the New York bar exam. My whole life is a walking psyop. Do you know that the Stonewall is just a CIA psyop? Louisa, well, almost everything in our reality is a psyop. Alfred, so the next pre-identified, we have Bush 1 beat Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, whose real name is Barry Sorbarka, and he is the son of an Indonesian cult leader. And this next president coming up is called Donald J. Trump, and they briefed him in 1971, like it or not it's Donald J. Trump. Now, Coming in 2020 or 2024 is my good buddy from New Jersey, the great garden state of New Jersey. We're countin' on you, Louisa. You're going to deliver New Jersey. Louisa, it's Andrew D. Bejigo. Let's talk about that. Alfred, here it is 2016 daily voting message. Vote your conscience. I am voting Bejigo for my conscience of a positive future and for the 100 following specific reasons or proposals. Andy has prepared, including number 1 planetary teleportation, which Andy has performed as a childhood participant in CIA teleportation. He had to go regularly to a DARPA forward time base in the year 2045, which Andy has performed and which is a precondition for Earth to become a Type 1 civilization which will eliminate war, disease, crime, and poverty, and which will elevate humanity to the next level of universal civilization beyond our time-space hologram to 4th, 5th density within, which is exactly what Cobra is saying. So, that is my message. It's all here. That is the stairway to heaven. Boom. End of story. Louisa, that's a great way to end. And I also wanted to say Cobra also has a book, which I printed out from the internet titled The Event. It's a very thick handbook of about 1,000 pages. This book is very well thought out and describes all of the processes that we are going through, everything that they are expecting to happen at the time of the event, ways that we can help each other through these changing times. Cobra, I have to give you credit for this as well. A lot of work went into this and I think it is very well thought out. Because we need to have visionaries like Alfred. We need to have people like Max who has experience from other civilizations. And let me just say that we also have the subterranean civilizations Cobra, we have the Agarthans and all this. I had participated in an online seminar with a person who had contact with the Agarthans as part of my research, and it appears that, if I am not mistaken, these subterranean civilizations obviously don't use money, but what I heard they have is kind of like a COOP kind of community participation, where there is a reasonable amount of time in the day, which is like Sweden, where they have a limited work day where everybody works but they work a short amount of time so that everybody's needs are met and you can spend the majority of your time with your family and pursuing your own interests to really actualize yourself. Cobra, how realistic is this for our surface population? Cobra, it is very realistic because even now we have technology available on the surface of the planet which could reduce the working day to 4 hours or less. I would say especially in developed countries most of the work is done just to maintain the matrix. It is work that does not produce any value, it just maintains the status quo. And the progress that would be available and the focus which could be shifted into something more productive could reduce the workday now today to 4 hours or less. The introduction of more advanced technologies after the event, this could reduce even more, and after the event that work itself will not be hard work. It will be inspiration, creativity from your sole purpose. It will not be hard work anymore. We will not need to put our energy into maintaining our physical bodies. We will be free to be creative and free to follow out true inner voice and calling. We will not be limited and chained as we are now. Louisa, am I understanding this correctly though? Cobra, I don't want to sue the word commune. But what is really the right word to describe the system that they use? It seems utopian and I am all for it. I think it's great, but is there a formal way to describe that kind of society? Cobra, I would say this is a post-commune society. It's a soul family society. Louisa, I see. So everybody works toward a common goal, and everyone's needs are met in the process. So in other words, in order to have the clothes on our body someone has to grow, but wait, if everyone has the replicators then no one has to grow cotton. But doesn't someone have to make the replicators? Isn't there always someone who has to roll up their sleeves and do the dirty work? Cobra, this was done thousands of years ago in many civilizations. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The technology is already available, it's not something that we need to start from scratch. Louisa, what about mining our planet? Are we still going to have to keep mining the gold etc.? Cobra, no, no gold can be replicated as well. Louisa, everything can be replicated. Cobra, everything. Louisa, wow, this is where our hearts need to be right now. This is where our souls need to be resonating with these concepts so we can manifest this quicker. Because we deserve it, I think we have paid our dues, even though we probably didn't need to but we did. Cobra, we are going through a complete paradigm shift. It's not just a small change we are going into. It is not just the arrest of the cabal, it's not just disclosure, it's not just a release of intel, and it's a complete change of life on this planet as we know it. It's an entrance into a new reality system without money, without struggle, without suffering, and without duality. And it's a cosmic change, it's not just a little clean-up operation on the surface of the planet. It's much more than that. Louisa, Cobra, for some souls who came to this planet and got here and said, this doesn't seem right, and never felt like it ever felt right here. Every soul has its purpose, I understand that, but it just seems like some have a much harder time being here than others. What is that all about? Cobra, first there are targeted individuals who have a strong potential and the controlling forces want to slow them down. And then there are people who have gone through very harsh experiences in the past and are recreating them because of their belief systems. It's a combination of various factors. Louisa, now is that going to change when this event happens because religion, and I am going to let the ambassador address next because it is something he is very well schooled in and knowledgeable about, we have to reconcile these belief systems we have here, and is this event going to help us and if so how is it going to help us do this? Cobra, we will not need belief systems anymore. Belief systems are just attempts to deal with a reality that is too much to handle. That is the definition of belief system. So, when reality changes we will not need to believe in anything because we will experience the true reality and all belief systems are mental concepts are just firewalls that we construct to face the harsh reality of the primary anomaly. And all this will be transformed. Louisa, from what Max is saying this event seems to be on our doorstep. Cobra, is that what you are saying? Because I think from your recent conference notes you were saying that we are in the next phase that will be accelerating to the event. Could you explain what you mean by that? Cobra, I cannot go into much detail but I would say that certain important cycles were completed in July and we just started a new one, and there was a strong breakthrough on the non-physical planes of the veil. It was not a complete breakthrough but it was a first strong indicator which has triggered a new phase which will be completed at the moment of the event. So we are basically speaking we are having cracks in the matrix of the veil. This technology is not 100% waterproof anymore. And it will begin to disintegrate slowly and when this begins to disintegrate we are very near. Louisa, are we going to have a sense that something is imminent? Or is it really going to kind of take us by surprise? Cobra, in a way it will take us by surprise because when things start happening they will accelerate very, very fast. People will not be able to make plans when things start to happen. It will be very, very fast. But there will be signs before and there are already signs before but if we speak of the actual breakthrough it's going to be a surprise because when the final breakthrough happens it will be removing of all the obstacles at once. It will not be a gradual process. Louisa, excellent. This just sounds too good to be true. I am sorry to sound like such a New Yorker, but you know when something sounds too good to be true to a New Yorker you know. We are a bit skeptical and need to see it with our own eyes to back it up, so to speak. Cobra, okay, when the event happens New Yorkers will not be so blasé anymore. It will be also a shock for them. Louisa, I am sure it will be. I know. And I see Alfred over there laughing at me because he knows what I am talking about since he used to live in New York City. It's a tough place to thrive. But I want to bring the ambassador in now, he has been so patiently waiting there, but I would like to invite anybody to jump in the conversation because I know I am directing question to certain people, but I also know you all may have comments on the different topics we are talking about, so feel free to jump in. But Ambassador, we covered so many different topics here, and like I said, you were so patiently waiting. Did you have anything that you wanted to add up to this point on what we covered? Was there anything that you would like today that we haven't covered yet? RD Ambassador, yes, I just wanted to confirm a few things. Actually, I was also briefed last week and I know that things are moving very fast forward, and I believe that maybe in the next coming 6 months you will see something that we have never seen before. So I think that this type of disclosure is coming closer and closer, but at the same time the world is getting more insane, as we can see too with all the so-called terrorist attacks, the racism, and the ignorance and all type of emotions spilling out. I think that it is important that to realize that the majority of what we are talking about belief systems will, with what's going to come here in the near future, is going to be traumatizing them to a very big extent. I think a lot of people will be disheartened and traumatized. I believe it is important for people to be prepared in their mindset and use discernment for what is right and what is wrong. I am talking for myself. If I was looking from outside of an alien race looking down on humankind, it's not a pretty view. It's probably like looking at a cancer spreading on a healthy body. So I think that we have to be changing ourselves and get deeper into our own understanding of the Creator and being one with Him, and also having a greater understanding of the world. And that is why I think it is more important now than ever to wage a war on ignorance. And I also think that in the next coming days, moving forward to certain date in September, after September we will see a lot of escalations of disinformation, and we have already a lot of disinformation agents who work in the propaganda machine like CNN, NBC, BBC and Fox News and all those different organizations. And also in the free media and the freedom fighters we also have both some insane people, compulsive liars, and some disinformation agents. So I think it is very important in these days that when all these things are going to be escalated and when all these traps are going to be put out to the population, that they will be aware and use their discernment so that they don't get hurt. And I pray and hope that we will come through any type of transformation in a better way, and I think that the world needs now more than ever to be unified instead of divide. And I think that it is important to disempower some organizations that have not done anything else that to cause harm on this planet for so long. And we are the only ones who can do it. No one can do it for us. And I think that is what I wanted to end my statement with today. That we need to liberate ourselves and we need to save ourselves and to work together. With that I think we can overcome anything. Louisa, alright Ambassador, thank you so much. We are at the hour-and-a-half point and it's gone by so quickly, and I know that Cobra has to get going, so I am going to ask for closing comments. Cobra, we wanted to focus on manifesting our new society today, and I know that you have your weekly meditation and of which I participate. There was an article today about how classical music actually occupies a higher dimensional realm, but for people who are composers and writers it's the act of creating the music that I have found personally, that creates holograms in this higher dimension. We can all manifest using different techniques and styles, but doing it all together and combining our energy and intention of causality is a very powerful tool of manifesting. Cobra, what message can you leave for our viewers today about how we can manifest our new society together? Cobra, one of the most important things is to hold the vision. Everybody has a certain understanding or feeling or intuition or certain inner knowing about the coming change, about the new age, about the new cycle, about the new reality. And if we hold this in the collective, we are going to create the resonance field to manifest it. And this is one of the reasons I am issuing those mass meditations, to create that resonance field stronger and to manifest that sooner. I know there have been many delays, nobody was expecting this to take so long, but we need to keep the focus. This is my message. The controlling forces work holding their focus for centuries, and this is why they have been so successful in enslaving humanity, regardless of their differences and their conflict. They are able to unite their forces against us. But now we need to realign our forces to hold our vision, and regardless of our little differences, to hold the vision for our new reality, for this planet, for the liberation, for the new society, for the new advanced technology, for how many missing people, for the first contact. For all this we need to hold the vision. No matter what, and we will hold it as long as it takes. And this is why we are going to be successful. So I would like to thank everybody, and I hope you will enjoy this meeting. Louisa, Cobra, thank you very much for joining us. This is your second time as a guest on our Goldfish Report Roundtable, and we are very grateful that you have joined us. And that was a very strong message that you just gave, and we cannot underestimate how important the message is, because as you said, the dark forces combine their energy, their intent to oppose us for so long, and that it has been that powerful. And if people just understand that we have that same ability, but we all have to be doing it collectively, are you saying that it would expedite the event? Cobra: yes, of course. Louisa: that makes sense. I just want to ask, would you come back again to visit us on the Goldfish Report? Cobra: yes, I will. Louisa: that's great. And we do hope that Simon Parks, who was supposed to join us here today, will join us on one of our future roundtable discussions. And we want to say victory to the light. Thank you very much for joining us today, Cobra. Cobra: thank you for listening. Louisa: Max, I wanted to go to you next. What would you like to leave our viewers with today? What would be the most important message you would like to leave our viewers with about manifesting our new society? Max: I would like to say that about a month and a half ago, my galactic family in their spacecraft up there, we removed several ley lines that were being used against humanity to the control of the subconscious mind and our consciousness. We removed all that, and it means that the timelines that you are all living in, it's up to you to create and manifest whatever you want. The timeline in your matrix has been released, so now you can do whatever you want to do, but try to create and manifest something for humanity. That's that main goal right now, to help humanity on the planet. My message is that you have the freedom to do and create and manifest whatever you want. Don't go into the mind control that's been going on. Don't listen to the disinfo on YouTube. That has been purposely planted to distract us from the reality we are trying to create right now. Peace, love, and harmony. Louisa: thank you, Max. That is a very powerful message as well. Peace, love, and harmony. And it seems, again, that this time has gone by so quickly, and we have so many topics to cover, and we will have to do another round table since we have so many topics to discuss with our distinguished guests. I love the fact and appreciate that you joined us today, Max, and I know that your partner Nicole is with us, and I am not quite sure if she had something she wanted to say or add to the conversation, but by all means please jump in and comment on what we discussed today. Nicole: I think what everyone said was really great. I definitely think there needs to be another round table, or 2 or 3 or 4. And if we could get more people involved also, because getting multiple perspectives really helps with whomever is listening to these messages. I think this was a really great round table we had here, and I want to thank you for letting me be a part of it, and hopefully a little bit more so in the future. Louisa: you are very welcome. And I think you are absolutely right, Nicole, that we need to have more of these, and I think there needs to be an ongoing dialogue, and I think in the spirit of what Alfred talked about was putting a council together. Putting a group of people together who are already ready to lead. People like Alfred, the ambassador, and Cobra, myself, who have walked this tough walk. People who have woken up and see through the matrix, and this is what I have been trying to do with these round tables. And as you Deus Max, Everybody has to have a chance to comment, and with the number of people in these round tables we want to allow for the exchange of perspectives and of course, allow everyone reasonable time to speak. Nicole, I think the time has come where we need to bring in more solutions, and as we have these gatherings, be more proactive like you wanted us to be, to create and manifest in the moment, and I think that is certainly something that future group calls where we will be able to do that, not just talking about it, but let's start doing it. Louisa, well, that's what I thought we were doing today. By talking about it in the way we were also manifesting it collectively. Isn't this right, Alfred? We are really manifesting. This is the key to doing it, to be thinking it, to be feeling it, to be talking about it with intention and causality. Alfred, I hope you will come back and continue this conversation with us on Goldfish Report. And so Alfred, I want to ask you for any comments you would like to leave our viewers with. Alfred, oh, sure, I would love to. Louisa, Alfred, what would you like to leave our viewers with today in the spirit of manifesting our new society and the spirit of creating the divine place on this planet that we were born to occupy, we were born to have? What is your message to our viewers? Alfred, well, echoing all the very fine points that our colleagues have said, as we are going through what I call a breakthrough process, which is how complex systems go to the next level, that is to constantly, both through your perception and through what you report to others in conversation, in your writings, how you see the world, how you talk to the world, what you post. Focus on the breakthroughs and not the breakdowns. Because you could walk around as say, oh, did you hear about his breakdown, or look at that breakdown, or that is the greatest breakdown ever. And people are not focusing on the breakthroughs. And so searching out the breakthroughs and reinforcing the breakthroughs and posting them and talking about them and keeping them in your mind, is not only how we build the future but we manifest it and make it real. That's what I would say, focus on the breakthroughs, manifest the breakthroughs, and forget about the breakdowns. The garbage men will be here to take them away tomorrow or today or instantly in this rapid world. Louisa, exactly. I think we are going to end where we started off with the caption of the message of this video of Charlie Chaplin's message to humanity from the movie The Great Dictator. And the reason I played that in the very beginning, was not to create negativity but just the opposite, to create motivation for all of us to be touched in our hearts by what we saw and heard, and like what Alfred was saying, the breakdown. We saw the children who were injured and killed. We saw their blood on the ground, and the ambassador is keenly aware of this suffering of humanity, and it is what motivates us. It makes us sad in our hearts. It's not what humans are about. As the message said, we want to love one another, we want to help one another, we have the love of man in our hearts, this is what our nature is. We want to focus on loving one another, and the ambassador has been doing this with his mission. And did you want to have any final comments on this, ambassador? RD Ambassador, I just want to end this discussion and that I am very happy to see that all these great minds came together to do this program, and we can sit here and have a civilized open discussion with each other, and that we work for the same purpose, and that is better for this planet and better for humanity. And I think we have to try to find way we can unify and work together and not just have this hostile human frequency that we see so much of in the world. And to come around this table and talk together and find solution, I think this is a great platform. And that is why we also have the symposiums in Global Mission of Peace for people to come and interact together and find solutions together. So I want to thank everyone for attending the program, and I hope to see you all back again soon. Louisa, well, thank you, Ambassador, for providing this platform for everybody and knowing how important it's how we come together collectively, bring our minds together and our hearts and our souls together to do this. And like in the work that you are redoing, we are all going about doing it a little bit differently, but I think our hearts are all in the right place, and I just would like to say we would like to thank everybody for joining us today. This is going to be transcript and digital voice copy release only, and this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report. Thanks for listening and watching. Subscribe and share.